Okay, this is part 14 of the Sunshine Kisses and Fairy Wishes crochet along. Part 14 was contributed by the beautiful Nancy and it is called Dancing Diamonds. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is make sure you are looking at the wrong side of your work. So make sure you have flipped yourself over, right? And we need to join in that first stitch with a standing single crochet. Just into the very first set of top loops there, standing single crochet, and very easy, just single crochet all the way down the line. Now we're going to do several single crochet rounds, 5 actually in total, and at the end of each round you're just going to chain 1, turn, and then do another row of single crochet. In the notes as you read through the pattern, and please do so because it's useful to be able to see it, you'll note a note for rounds 2 to 5 that to put a stitch marker into the third of your 5 total single crochet rounds, because all we're going to do is go backwards and forwards 5 times with single crochet. But we need to flag the third one of these rounds with a stitch marker. So when you get to round 3, you can put one at the beginning. I would recommend you put maybe 2 or 3 down the line as you're working row 3 so that you can get a visual, especially if you're doing a big blanket and it's wide and it's hard to see the beginning when you're working across. So row 1 is just single crochet all the way to the end. There's my last stitch right there. Chain 1, turn, and put a single crochet again back into the same first stitch that you just did the chain from, and single crochet down. So row 1 to row 5 are all single crochet, but I want you to flag row 3. So I'll get to row 3 and then I'll show you where I'm putting my stitch markers, and then we'll continue on. I've made my first 2 rows of single crochet and I'm about to start the third. So I made my chain 1 and turned, and we're just going to start with a single crochet again, but this is row 3. So I would like you very much, according to Nancy's little hint, to grab a stitch marker and just mark that first stitch. Now we will be working into that when we come back, but it's really just about flagging where row 3 is, because you're going to be working into it in row 6. We're going to be making some stitches into row 3, and it'll just save you the headache of trying to figure out where it is later if you just take a minute now and pop in a few stitch markers. So about every, 50 stitches or so, I would recommend you just grab a stitch marker and just wrap it around a stitch, just like that. Now I do need to work into that stitch when I come back, so I might have to find a better way to do it. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out when we get there, but I just need to know where my round 3 is. And that's probably why Nancy only told you to put 1 at the beginning, because it is kind of hard. The other way you could do it, I suppose, is use a little bit of an offcut of some yarn. I can't even find one here at the moment. I actually cleaned up for a change. Maybe just put a bit of spare yarn, little off trimmings that you've got, just thread it around so that you know where row 3 is, because when we come back down to make, we're going to be making some post stitches, we need to be able to get into the right stitch. Okay, so finish row 3 and then do 2 more, 4 and 5, all single crochet, all chain 1 at the ends, chain 1 and turn, and back into the same stitch and run across, and I will meet you back here for row 6 and you'll see why those stitch markers are handy. Okay, back in a bit. I've finished my 5 rows, here they are. I've turned my work back to the front because we need to be facing the front when we continue with row 6. And so the only thing now is trying to just make sure that you know where row 3 is. So I have marked my row 3 at both ends, one there and one there. And even though mine is only a small piece, I also put one right in the middle. So the row you're looking for when you're looking at it head on is this row here with what I call the little my little sumo wrestlers, their 2 legs and their little waistband that they have there. This is the row. This is row 3. All these little teeny tiny little sumo wrestlers. So as long as you get your eye in and you can see where it is, you should be fine. You'll have 3 sets of these. One is row 1, one is row 3, and the very last one here is row 5 that you just made from the other side. Okay, so this is the middle one. So if you get your bearings like that, we can get started. Okay, let's get started. I took out my stitch marker only because it's noisy when I'm working. So we have completed our previous row here, and I've made my chain 1 just on the end there, and we turn and we make a single crochet in that very first stitch where the chain 1 was. And now I need a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches so that I have 3 single crochet at the start of my row. Now I need to make a front post treble around the 5th single crochet in row 3. So let's find it first. So here is my row 3, first stitch, second, third, fourth and 5th. So it's right there. Okay. Now this might not look like a stitch, but it is. It's just that it was the end stitch and I had a stitch marker in it, so I've pulled it a little bit out of shape. But it is definitely a stitch 1, 2, 3, 4 and into the 5th. So yeah, front post treble is 2 yarn overs, as you may remember. Come down and around that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 times, and that's my front post treble. Okay, so it's just right there. Okay, once we've done that, we need to skip a stitch in the current row. So roll back and find that stitch. It's right there. That's the first empty stitch. So we're skipping that one and we're going to work into the next one. So I'm just going to pinch my fingers there so I know where I'm going. Skip one, work one. 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, it says. 3 and 1 more makes 4. Now we've reached the bold square bracket, which is now going to tell us what we're going to do all the way down the side. Okay, so we start with a front post treble crochet, 2 yarn overs, around the next stitch in row 3, it says. So find that stitch. Here's that front post treble we made down here, and there's the next stitch in row 3. That's row 3, remember? So there's the next stitch there. So 2 yarn overs, pull forward, just pull forward, fold your work if need be, get under that stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2, 3 times to complete the treble. So now I have one going this way and one going this way. And look, don't worry if they look different, because when the blanket stretches out and everything settles into position, because don't remember, we're going to keep going here, things will settle nicely into shape. So we've made our front post treble in the next stitch down here, and now we're going to skip 4 stitches in the same row 3. So 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we're going to make a front post treble around the 5th stitch, which is right there. So yarn over twice, come down to that 5th stitch across and make a front post treble like that. Okay. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches in the current row, which is back up here. So that stitch is used, it's got loops coming out of it. 1, 2, and we're going to work into the 3rd one right there. So I'm going to put my fingers there, and we're going to make 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 3 and 4. And that's the whole repeat completed. So it started here with this treble, and it finishes here with these 4 single crochet. Right. Now I'm going to make you pay attention to this. You see this little dip I have here? That's probably because my stitch, one of my trebles is too tight, probably this one. Now it may resolve in the next row, but if you're going to work 216 stitches down the side of this, you don't want to figure that out at the end. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to do another repeat. And I'll show you how you can loosen up your trebles from the bottom instead of from the top. Okay, so let's start another repeat. It starts with a front post treble around the next single crochet in row 3. So it's this one. So come down, snag that next stitch and pull up your loop. Now, oops, if your trebles are going too tight, here's what you're going to do. Normally this is how I have my loops when I'm making a treble. But if I'm finding them too tight, I just give this a little extra tug and elongate that first loop a little bit. See how it's a little bit longer? It was like this before. And now I'm going to make it like this. It's just millimeters difference, but watch what happens. Now do your yarn over, pull through 2 and 3 times. And it's a completely different height. Just by a couple of millimeters. See how this one's dipping? This one isn't. When we finish the repeat, you'll see the difference. So let's finish the repeat. So that's that step. The next step, that's the beginning. Oops. That's the beginning of the repeat. I need to skip 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which brings me to here, and make my next front post treble across over here. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to pull this just a couple of millimeters longer than normal. 1, 2, and 3. I'll finish the repeat first, then I'll put this down. Then we need to skip 2 behind, okay, and work into the third one and make 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. 3 and 4. Oops. Now, let's take a look at the difference. You see, this one's pulling down a bit more. Now, there is naturally going to be a dip, and when we come back around the other way, it will lift all of this. You don't need to worry about that, but just keep an eye on whether this is actually pulling or not. If there's plenty of give in it, it's not pulling. All right, but you need to kind of, it's hard to demonstrate this without you being able to feel things. I can tell this is pulling because it's actually lying really flat on my work, whereas this one is lifted off. So when my work gets pulled around, there is give in this. You can see that. As opposed to this one, I have to pull this one up. Okay, so when I just stretch it back down, this one naturally, oh, it's so hard, naturally lifts off, and this one doesn't. It's tighter. It's really, in fact, you can't even probably tell on the camera that you're looking at a stitch here. That's a stitch right there, but it's absolutely pulling flush in there because of the tension. Whereas this one, when I turn it, it's actually naturally lifting a little bit. And if I open it up, it's even looser. Okay, I want that little bit of stretch in my blanket. I don't want it pulling tight like this one. I want it being able to lift and not overstretch itself. Okay, enough yap. Let's do one more repeat and then I'll let you go. So the repeat starts with a front post treble, back down here into the next stitch. Down and around, pull up your loop. As tight or as loose as you need it to be. If you crochet a bit tighter, then you might have to pull that loop down a bit. Then we skip 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, so we're going into the 5th. Front post treble again, down and around, pull up your loop, and finish the treble. Now we're going to skip 2 behind, 1, 2, and make a single crochet in each of the next 4. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so let's just regroup. I know I've got a super large loop here. I'm going to pull this row out and be a bit more careful when I'm doing it, but I just wanted to demonstrate. So, here we are. Your repeat is really simple. You start with a front post treble in the stitch after the one that you did the other treble in. You will skip 4 and make another front post treble over here. Then you will skip 2 in the current row up above, 1, 2, and make 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet, and you start again. Front post treble down into the next stitch, so they're not going into the same stitch, it's in the next stitch. Skip 4 again and another front post treble. Skip 2 behind, 1 and 2, and make your 4 single crochet. So you need to go all the way down with this, and you'll finish on 4 single crochet down here, and then I'll help you get through the last section. So somewhere you'll land somewhere over here. I'm not sure how many stitches we'll have. 3 there. We'll be making one final front post treble. So I'll meet you down here and we'll finish up together. Now I've popped back in to show you something because I made a mistake. I wasn't paying attention and I over skipped down here. Can you see it? See how I've got an extra stitch in there? Your 2 front post trebles should be very close side by side, not in the same stitch but also not too far apart. So you've just got to make sure. I looked up for 2 seconds and over skipped. Just a mild warning about that. We want them close together. Keep going. Now when you get to the end of your last repeat, there it is, it finishes with the 4 single crochet. Okay, so we've got a little bit of work left to do, but we also should only have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left on the end. Okay, so make sure that's all you've got left. So now to finish off the side, we're going to make a front post treble around the next single crochet down here to close off this section. So into the next stitch, down and around, 2 and 3. Right, now we're going to skip 1 stitch in the current row, that one there, the first of the 4, and we're going to put a single crochet, skip and a single crochet into the last 3. 1, 2 and 3. And the last thing you do is chain 1 and turn, and that's row 6 completed. Now stop and take a good look at it. So it is a little bit curly at the top, do not worry about that. As long as it's not pulling forward because your stitches are too tight, that's not a problem. I mean, I guess stitches too loose is also not pretty. You don't want them wobbling everywhere. We just want them sitting comfortably on top and not too tight that it's going to pull. Alright, we will resolve this little bump as we move along. The other thing I want you to check is make sure that you've got 4 stitches in between. Just for uniformity, make sure you've put your front post trebles into the same line all the way across. Visual check. Okay, you can see that nicely on the image there. Okay, now we'll go on and do the next few rows. So make sure you've made a chain 1 at the end and turn, please. Alright, and we'll carry on with row 7 in a moment. Now we start row 7 with a single crochet in the same stitch on the edge where the chain 1 is, and we're only going to put a single crochet in every stitch, but just take your time because some of these stitches are the front post trebles and your loops might be a little bit on the loosish side, but don't worry, it will flatten out, I promise. So just get into every stitch, not the skipped stitches. Don't worry about the skipped stitches, we're not touching those. Okay, those are just so that your treble stitches don't pull too much. We had to skip a little bit to give ourselves a bit of space behind. So just carry on all the way down the line. So now that's row 7. Get to the end and you make a chain 1 and you turn. And then you have to do 2 more single crochet rows, 8 and 9. The same thing, you will chain 1 and turn. You will put a single crochet in the very first stitch and then a single crochet all the way down. Get to the end of row 8, you chain 1 and turn, and do the same for row 9. Single crochet in the first stitch, single crochet all the way down. So I'm still halfway through row 7. I'll finish row 7, 8 and 9, and then turning each time, do not forget that, and then we'll come back to do the rest of our little diamonds with row 10. Alright, I'll see you then. Row 10. So before we start, just checkpointing that you've got everything you need to have done up to this point. So we're back now on the right side after finishing 3 rows of single crochet for row 7, 8 and 9. Okay, so that's 7. We worked 7 from the wrong side, we worked 8 from the right side, and then we worked 9 back. Okay, and then you flip, you chain 1 and you flip, and we're ready for row 10. So just a couple of little points for row 10 before we start. Right side of the blanket. Our single crochet will go into this top row. That's the single crochet we just did. Our front post stitches will be worked into these around the existing front post stitches from row 6. We're going to be going around those only. We won't be touching anything else. We will make a few single crochet, but our post stitches will be going around these. The other thing to note now is tension is going to dictate which stitch you use for the post stitches. The pattern is written with front post trebles, that's 2 yarn overs, but if that's too tight and you're going to have to experiment a little bit, you can use a front post double treble. I'll show you how to do that one. But first let's get started. First thing we need to do is put a single crochet into the very first stitch where the chain was, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 4. So that gives you a total of 5 single crochet at the start of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Now, before we start our repeats, we have 1 front post treble to make before we do anything else. So 2 yarn overs, and we're going to come around this treble here. Pick up under it, pull your loop through, and make a front post treble. So that's how you have to make that very first stitch. Now if that's too tight, and I already know from experience that mine are going to be too tight using the treble, I'm going to use a double treble, and I'll show you now how to do that. That's 3 yarn overs. 1 for a double crochet, 2 for a treble crochet, and 3 for a double treble crochet. So 3 yarn overs, back down around for the post stitch, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through to 4 times. That's the third one, and this is the last and 4th. That's a much looser stitch, but I am going to need it. You really do need to have a bit of a practice, so I would suggest you do a couple of these first before you decide. Maybe do a couple of different ways. Maybe do one with front post treble, one with double trebles, and see what it looks like. Alright, now we're going to start our repeats. We've hid the bold square brackets, and it says 1 front post treble around the left front post treble of the, of the pair. That's what it says, of front post trebles on round 6. So here's our pair. A front post treble, but I'm going to do a double treble, so 1 extra yarn over. And we're going all the way across to here. We're going to skip this one for a minute. Don't touch it. Come over to this one. Hence why you may yet even need a longer stitch. Yeah, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 times for a treble, 4 times for a double treble. And that's my first diamond complete. I know this doesn't look much like a diamond yet, but watch what happens when I do the next bit. So now we have to skip 2 stitches at the back, 1 and 2, and put a single crochet in each of the next 4. So into the third one, there. Oops, drop it. 1. Oh, come on, goodness. 2, 3, and 4. And suddenly this doesn't look so loose anymore. Don't ask me how. Magic of single crochet. Pulled it right in line. Right, and the last thing we need to do for the repeat is do another front post treble or double treble like me, and come back to this stitch that we skipped, this post stitch we skipped, and go under it, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3 or 4 depending on which stitch you're using. I promise I won't keep saying that all the time. Alright, that's the repeat completed. So the repeat started here with this front post treble going over to this post treble, 4 single crochet in the middle of it, and then closing off with this front post treble back across to this front post treble. So we're going to be crisscrossing down the line. Now we immediately start again. Immediately. Front post treble or double, cross all the way over to this one, the left one, or the right one for you lefties, and make your treble, your postage, 3 and 4 for me. Then you come back and you skip 2, 1, 2, and put a single crochet in each of the next 4. 3, 2, 3 and 4. Then your front post stitch again. I'm going to make the double treble again and come back to the one we skipped and complete your stitch. Just get that loop pulled straight. And voila. So that's 2 complete repeats done here. I will do one more with you. It starts here with this post stitch crossing right over to this post stitch. Then you skip 2 behind, you put 4 single crochet in, and you do the other post stitch coming back around to close off this part of the diamond. Right? Then you immediately start again. Post stitch across here, 4 single crochet, post stitch back. Only 2 skipped stitches in between. But these 2 stitches, these 2 post stitches are done immediately, one after the other. Okay, there's no stopping there, there's no skipping anything. Okay, so we start here. So even though I've done that one, there's no skipping it, we just immediately make our post stitch first. That's how the repeat begins. Post stitch. Now we skip 2, 1, 2, and put 4 single crochet in, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we go back to the skipped post over here and finish off our stitch. 3 and 4. So now I've done 3 repeats. Post stitch, 4 single crochet, post stitch. So go all the way down. Your last repeat will finish here with this set. You'll do 1 post stitch that way, you'll do 4 single crochet, and you'll come back and do a post stitch there, and then you can wait for me. But I actually will just keep going and just let you watch. For those who need to, can just keep watching me work, and hopefully it's not too confusing. So we skip over to this one, make a front post stitch, skip 2, 1, 2, and make a single crochet, skip, skip, see those 2, in the next 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then a double treble or a front post treble back around the skipped stitch. 3 and 4. Then we start again immediately over to here. I'm trying to pinch my stitches so I don't pull those top loops too wide. It can be challenging. Now we're going to skip. 1, 2, into the third one, 1 single crochet in the next 4. Then post stitch back around this post stitch we skipped. That's another complete repeat. And we start again. Over at the top. Skip 2, 1 single crochet in each of the next 4. And I've just kept going because I'm only doing a sample, as you know, so there's not a lot of stitches for me. And the final part of my repeat is to come back to that skipped one and finish my post stitch. 3 and 4 for me. Okay, let's have a look now. Oh God, it feels beautiful. I love texture, it's such a sensual thing. Alright, when you've got to the end, we need to make one final post stitch around here. So away we go. Like that. Now you need to skip 2, must skip 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to put a single crochet into each of the last 5 stitches, and 5, and you're done. So let me just bring it down. Now I know that it's collapsing a little bit, but as I said before, if you just check that you've got enough give in it, so the next round will stretch everything into a really nice shape. Okay, if it's going to pull all of this up and create holes, then it's too tight. So I hope you stopped after a few goes and adjusted your tension or your stitch if you needed to. I did. I used front post double trebles all the way down, and I'm quite happy with that. Right, once you've done all of that, you need to chain 1 and turn, and we'll come back and finish off with the last 2 rows. Here we are now. I'll just show you how to do the first of the last 2 rows. I'm at the back end of the work again now. I've made my chain 1 at the end of row 10, there it is at the top, and turned. Now you need a single crochet in that first stitch and a single crochet in every stitch thereafter, all the way down. This is a good opportunity to check your stitch count, make sure you didn't miss anything in the previous row, that you did all 4 of those single crochet in between those post stitches. Now you must remember too not to use the skipped stitches, they're standing right in the way, so you need to make sure you just go behind them and get into the top loops of the post stitches, okay, and carry on down the line, 1 single crochet all the way down. When you get, see, it almost got me then too. I had to stop it and hesitate so I can find my loops. So you might, it's just a good idea, just rotate forward towards you a little bit so you can see where everything is. That happened, see? Oops. I just want to do a little bit more there so I can show you what it looks like from the other side now that we've done this, the first single crochet row. Let's flip it and lay it out. Now that's just 1 row, and then the second one will settle it even more. So we do this row 11, which is single crochet all the way down. At the end we're going to chain 1 and turn and do 1 final set of single crochet to give it that nice little buffer between the post stitches and the rest of the fabric. So I'll let you go and I'll come back at the end when I've finished and just give you one last look. Back soon. Take your time, don't rush. It's coming good. So what I just thought of something else. So what I want you to check is, even though it's curling a bit for me, I can stretch it. If you can't stretch your fabric because those stitches are too tight, now's the time to make the decision and go back and redo it. Okay? Alright, I'll catch up with you in a minute. And there you have it, all done. So we've got a nice little buffer of a couple of rows of single crochet framing these diamonds beautifully. And that's it for part 14. So now everybody, we all need to go away and put our across the miles in up the top and then reconvene for part 15. Back then.